We begin our story with the fact that the daughter of Marquis Renarti has gone missing, contrary to many expectations. People have not been able to find Arabella Renarti. There were rumors that Marquis and his wife were still searching for their missing daughter, and so countless fake Arabellas came to the couple's estate. And just as quickly and frustratedly, they put their hands down. "Mother, aren't you going to eat?" asked a girl who had come into her sister's room. "Anita," her mom said when she noticed the girl, "it's growing beautifully here, surrounded by all these beautiful things." "But she's interested in how our Arabella's life is going over there," the girl's mother said. The girl's mom was so upset that she couldn't even talk to anyone. She asked her daughter to leave the room, but the child did not understand what was going on and why her mother was behaving like that. She reached out to her and wanted her mother's love and affection. Well, when the girl touched her mom, she screamed really hard. "Get out!" she said, and slapped the girl's arm. The girl, of course, was upset. She was very hurt that her own mother had hit her. The girl turned and went to the door, and her mother sat by the crib and sobbed. "Her little sister, Arabella! Arabella!" All that Anita could enjoy was to belong to her, Arabella. The girl, whose name was Anita, had not yet had time to leave the room when she heard her mother say those words. After losing Arabella, the family could not afford to interrupt the bloodline, so a second child was born. That child was her, the girl Anita. Did they really think that loving the child they had made because they had no other choice would not be a great betrayal to Arabella? Among those who looked only at Arabella, and not at her. A conversation among the maids. If Lady Arabella were alive, she would wear clothes like this. Since she had silver hair like Madame, this color would suit her very well. Compared to her, Lady Anita, if there was one person who would only look at her, at Anita, that man would be the heir to the Grand Duchy of Rashadi Axian. Axian, her fiancé and only friend. When her parents completely neglected her because of the fake Arabella noise, Axel invited her to Rashadi Manor. In this place, she was not the thief who had embezzled all of Arabella's belongings, but was Anita. But did it happen because of her parents' decision? Arabella had finally returned to their home. To confirm her identity, her parents used a sacred object inherited from the imperial family, and he revealed that she was the real Arabella, returning to them after a full 19 years. From that point on, she could foresee everything, starting with getting Arabella's room ready. "Don't you have any more bright colors?" Arabella's mother asked. She is a child who has experienced hardship in a harsh environment. Therefore, she needs brighter, warm colors to make her feel comfortable. The maid said she was preparing a new rug. As Arabella ate, her mother and father and a bunch of maids circled around her. Each one said something. "Please have some more desserts, my lady," said a maid. "Daughter, what should they do since she's so thin?" said the father. "She needs to eat more nutritious meals. She will ask to double the chef's budget," spoke the mother. And everything was slowly being taken away. Anita's, starting with her dresses. The tailors said they'd make her dresses much finer than Anita's. And Mother said that all the family jewels would also go to you, because you were the original owner, Arabella. They wanted to give Arabella the best of everything, the very best things. Of course, they included things she had never gotten before, but there were also things that were just taken away from Anita. It even got to the point where Anita, walking past her mother and father's room, overheard their conversation. "Isn't there any way to break Anita's engagement to the Grand Duke? It is an engagement which His Excellency proposed first, so it would be difficult for us to break it off," said the father. "But His Excellency, the Grand Duke, has just sent an offer of marriage to the daughter of the Marquis of Renarti," said Mother. "If our Arabella had not been lost, she would have been the Grand Duke's bride. If you succeed in breaking Anita's engagement, this place will naturally belong to Arabella," Mother said. Mother became furious and screamed that she wanted Anita to be given all the delights of this life, whatever kind they might be. "It's horrible, just disgusting. It all belongs to Arabella, but this child," Mother meant Anita. The husband hugged his wife and said he felt the same way. He had never wished to associate Anita with the Grand Duke's family. Duchess status suited Arabella much better. "We'll do it exactly that way," he said. And as for Anita, she would just help him in the family business, as she had done so far. Poor girl. All this time she stood by the door and heard it all. She was very hurt and sad that nobody loved her in this house. The next day, Anita and Axian were drinking tea. A silence had formed between them. Axian decided to ask Anita who had called the girl, but she is silent, thinking about something. "It's been quite a while since they last met," Axian asked. "Oh, sorry," Anita replied. She hesitated for a moment. "She's been a little busy these days, so I'm sorry for turning down appointments," the girl said. "Did she really have meetings besides me?" asked Axian. "No, of course not. You what?" Anita replied. There was a knock on the room. "They're the ones," she said. "Excuse me, please, she needs to open the door." Opening the door, she saw Mother and Arabella standing there. "How about introducing Arabella to the Grand Duke of Rashidi?" said Matushka. "She is your older sister. We have no doubt the Duke will be pleased to see her too. They can take everything from her, and even things that didn't originally belong to her. It doesn't matter what will happen, but Axian, the one she'll never let be taken away." Duke asked Anita, "Who's there to see?" That is, she covered the door and said, "is apologizing. She'll be out for a minute." Anita walked out to her mother and sister, closing the door behind her. "Anita, what are you doing?" the girl replied in a low voice. Mother asked, "What exactly don't you want?" She said she didn't want to introduce Arabella to Duke Axian. "Negative," she said, refusing to do so. And then her mom yelled, "You've always been like this!" Arabella tried to hold back and say, "Mom, don't!" But Mom thought Arabella shouldn't worry. They deserved to be scolded for their insolence. "Until when is she going to behave like this? She doesn't feel sorry for her sister," Mom shouted. "They," it replied, "have no pity for Arabella. She can't introduce your daughter without another person's permission." "That would be rude to his lordship," Anita said. But Mama kept shouting anyway, that she was really very horrible indeed. Mother kept shouting, "Anita, in whom is she so selfish and wicked? Is there what is so hard to imagine a sister?" Arabella asked her mother not to yell at Anita. Arabella called out for her mother and realizes that her condition is getting bad. She was losing consciousness. The mother was furious. She finally turned around and saw that her daughter was already on the floor. "Please wake up, dear Arabella," cried Mother. Anita immediately said she would get the doctor and ran after him. The girl ran so fast that she saw no one in front of her, and she did not notice the maid who was coming out from around the corner with a vase of flowers. The maid miraculously held up the vase, asking, "Lady D. Anita, what happened? Why did you run?" Anita, panting, tried to tell me to get a doctor. The maid asked if she had heard correctly. "Opposite the first living room on the first floor, Arabella fainted," Anita said. The maid, when she heard, was frightened herself. "How is it that Lady Arabella has fainted?" She was so scared that the vase fell out of her hands. She screamed that it couldn't be, and she would be right back. That same day when the doctor examined Arabella, he found no health problems with her. She passed out so suddenly. What happened? That had been her intention all along. Arabella and the Archduke are sitting in the room. "Arabella," says your lordship, "I apologize for presenting myself to him in this way. It's just that Anita will be here soon," she said. "All right," the Archduke replied. Arabella's mother said he was a nobleman with excellent manners, but for some reason it was scary, Arabella thought. They must have been very surprised when she fainted, Arabella thought. Fortunately, she recovered quickly. "Arabella, how are you?" her mother asks her. "Anita, where is she?" asks Arabella. "It doesn't matter now, Bella. How are you feeling?" "You'll be fine," Mother said. "After all, this is her chance to meet His Grace," Anita said. "What? But Anita will come later, just come in the living room," her mom told her. His Grace is angry that she came to the meeting uninvited, just as they said she would. Arabella sat looking at the Archduke and thinking. She was uncomfortable. She felt like she was suffocating and wanted to leave. But she remembered her parents' instructions. Her father had said he was sure the Archduke would like their Bella, and her mother said she must make sure she looked good in front of the prince. She couldn't disappoint her parents. "Your Grace," she apologizes for the inconvenience. Axian said she had no reason to apologize to him. This isn't the first time a young girl has shown up unannounced. Arabella was surprised. Turns out he'd heard the conversation outside. Besides, you said Anita would be here soon. Arabella noticed that the Archduke seemed like a different person when he spoke of Anita. As Anita walked to the door, she heard talk of Arabella. She was pretending to faint and then meet His Grace, Anita was sure. Anita was immediately reminded of her mother's words. Anita, who is she so selfish about? It's so hard for her to imagine her. Why should she listen to her mother's words? Surely Arabella should have the best of everything. Everyone in this mansion already blames her, as if she so-and-so stole everything from Arabella and should feel sorry for her. In the end, she will have to give her everything she owns to be accepted in this mansion. Anita knocked on doors before entering Axian's room. She knew Axian was the only thing she had, and she couldn't give up that easily, or she had to give him up too. When Anita entered the room, Arabella immediately jumped up. "She scared you, I'm sorry, Anita," Arabella said to her sister. But Anita was already angry with her. She thought the girl had shown up to steal everything from her. Arabella took Anita's hands and said, "Where have you been? Why are you looking at her like that?" she asked. "She was really expecting you." Anita, as you can see, and the girl wanted to continue further, but Anita interrupted her. She said, "Get out of here, please." And Arabella replied that she really could come out. She thanked Anita and said that she was actually a little scared. "Good, won't have them in the way with the Duke. I'll see you later." And Arabella headed for the exit. Strange. The slave girl had a hard life in the slums, Anita thought. She was the one who lived in a noble family without needing anything. But Arabella looks happier and more innocent than Anita. The girl apologizes for her parents' rudeness, Axian. But Axian replied that it was fine. She shouldn't worry. "But you'd better go now," Anita said. "All right. But next time he wants you to come to the duchy to see him." "Do you mind?" asked Axian. Her sweet friend tells her she has a chance to get out of here. "He'll send you an invitation, tomorrow afternoon." It was just that since Arabella had shown up, Anita had become superfluous in this mansion. "Okay," the girl replied and smiled. "It's nice to be in Lacadia." The next day morning. "Honey, does she like the food?" Father asked Arabella. "Yes, it's very good, Father," replied the girl. "Eat more, for you are very thin," said the mother. Arabella noticed that Anita only had salad on her plate. She asked, "Anita, don't you like steak? You only have one salad." "You may be on a diet, but you're already very slender," Arabella asked. Mother said Anita doesn't usually eat much. "Arabella, don't ask." More importantly, Arabella should eat more to gain weight. "Yes, and don't worry about Anita. Eat more and get better," Mother said. Arabella said, "I'm sorry, she'll try to eat more." "Don't apologize. Nothing is your fault," the mother said. The father said it was their fault. They had eaten to their heart's content while their daughter starved. "Isn't that so?" they asked the parents, looking at the girl very sternly. "He heard the way she treated Arabella in the living room," the text said. "She was very rude to her sister. You see, all this time she's been in the mansion enjoying herself. Quite how can she not feel sorry for her sister who has endured so many hardships? She can understand why you two feel guilty about Arabella, but—" "Don't you dare get even with her," Anita said. And then my father shouted, "Anita, watch what you say in front of your sister." Anita stood up and said she had spent enough time with her family. She would go. Mother, turning to her, said, "What are you saying? Are you leaving in the middle of a family dinner?" "Anita, wait!" Arabella, from these shouts, did not notice that she had put her hand on her plate, and the plate fell off the table along with the fork and the food that was there. Mother said, "Darling, there is no need to shout in front of Arabella. She might get frightened." Arabella rushed to the plate to pick it up off the floor and said, "I'm sorry." No, it's okay, honey, we're not mad," Mother said. Dad said he was worried that Arabella might get hurt because of Anita. "Darling, why do you let Anita act so arrogantly?" whispered Mother in his ear. Father told the maid to have Anita come to his office in an hour. An hour later, Anita came into her father's study. While he was gone, she was looking at books. He told her to come in an hour, but it would take at least an hour to calm his favorite daughter. But she'll read a book for now, sitting down on a chair near the window. The book was about the founding of an empire. It's pretty boring, but she likes it. That's because it mentions Lake Alkente, the lake where the divine beast that helped the first emperor found the empire appears. Thinking about this lake makes her feel better. So much better that Anita dozed off and began to dream. It reminds her of the man she met there. While still a little girl there, she met a boy whose eyes were bluer than the legendary lake. Years ago, at a round table, the girls gathered for a tea party, discussing the flowers. "Look at these white flowers. What are they called?" a girl asked. "Anita Renardi, years old. Lady Renardi keeps looking out over the lake." "We think you're bored here," asked Rachel Savior, Countess Saviour's eldest daughter. "That is not so, Lady Savior." "Then what were you and I just talking about?" Anita thought. The girls must have noticed she wasn't paying attention to the conversation. "Of course, lady. The name of the flower you were wondering about is called a lavena. This flower has a strong fragrance and beautiful appearance. I hope you found it useful. Thank you for telling me about it, Lady Anita. Anita couldn't wait for this tea party to be over. The garden next to the lake was known as a meeting place for the nobility. Noble ladies often had tea parties here. Anita was invited here too. Of course, they did so for a specific purpose. Anita, you look strange. Will you be a little friendlier? Thinks they want to be friends with her. No way, she just wants to get close to my family, thought Anita, talking to her invisible friend. She thought of inviting everyone to take a walk to the lake. But no, if this man was fainting now, he would be drowned by the time they arrived. You can't tell the others how she knows about a drowning man. Then we should go. To her girlfriends, she said she would look at the lake and come back. When she arrived, as expected, the man had already drowned. People will know where she is if they see her shoes. She wouldn't do that, would she? Asked the invisible friend. Wait, Anita, he told her, and the girl went into the lake. She went deep and began to sink, sinking to the bottom. And then all of a sudden this person showed up almost at the bottom. It was a girl, and she found her. Anita swam over to her, taking her hand. She tried to pull her out, but she couldn't do it alone. She started looking for help, for someone to help her. If she didn't find it, at this rate she would drown too. Anita noticed the water column. They were saved by the water column. It was an incomprehensible phenomenon, but she had no choice but to accept what had happened. When she was on the shore, the servants noticed them and began shouting, "Your ladyship, ladies! Footmen, stand back! Don't crowd!" It was the lake associated with the legend of the founding of the empire. "Your lordship, how are you?" "She doesn't know how to thank you, miss." He, Axian, the footman, thanks you for saving his mother. That was her first encounter with Axian, too. She's pretty sure she didn't give her name at the time. However, Axian sent her a letter as if he already knew everything. That was the beginning of their friendship. Anita looked at her watch and said she had to go. Arabella fainted. Today the doctor said he didn't know why. He must hurry and break Anita's engagement if rumors spread that she is ill. It would be impossible to betroth Bellis to the Archduke. Anita overhears her father and mother talking. Anyway, Arabella can be with the prince too, can't she? Father asked. He means a prince who is cold to women, and more than that, said Mother. If it's a guarantee that they'll be part of His Majesty's family. She can't be with him. Arabella should be adored as much as possible, Mother said. It is the same with marriage. How about this? Make Anita stand out in the eyes of the Empress, Father said. If she becomes a candidate for Crown Princess, it will be easier for them to break the engagement with the Archduchess. It is not necessary that she become Crown Princess. It would just be an excuse to break the engagement. Great idea. Let's do it, Mother said. Again they stood under the door and heard it all. It's the only value she has to her family. Now she's starting to wonder a little bit. She's the one who saved the Archduchess on this day. So why do they think this applies to Renarti? What made them think she would obey the family? Why should she do what they tell her to do because they don't consider her part of the Renarti family? She doesn't look like her mother and father. Because of this, there were many rumors when she was born. It's only gotten worse since Arabella came back. As Anita walked to her room, she heard the maids talking. Isn't it strange? They said. Lady Arabella looks like the cheetah of the marquis. Unlike Lady Anita, everyone thinks it's suspicious. Who knows? Maybe she's not a noblewoman at all. The maids were discussing, standing in the hallway. When Lady Anita approached them, they were frightened. How dare you say that about her? Said the girl. My lady, it's not like that. Get out of the house now, she shouted. She herself will inform her mother of the ill-mannered maids who gossip about their masters. More and more people are questioning her position. If this keeps up, she'll take everything from her. She wouldn't let anyone else use it. The girl was very angry. Anita went to her room, went to the window and tried to calm down, but there was a knock on the door. Anita said, Come in. And her maid ran in saying, Mistress, Lord Rick Elmont of the Knighthood of Lacidate has arrived. This girl, her maid Harry, is the only one who treats her kindly in this mansion. Maybe because she always rewards her financially. This is her gift, Harry. Use it if necessary, Anita said. The maid replied, Thank you, mistress. As expected, it was a good thing she stayed close to Mrs. Anita, Harry thought. Following the other servants to Mistress Arabella, she would never be able to receive such a gift. Compared to the naive Mistress Arabella, the generous Mistress Anita is much better. If she had grown up in poverty, that might explain it, Harry thought. But Mrs. Anita, on the contrary, should not behave like a flower in a greenhouse. Very strange. Why didn't she stroke her head today? She was so looking forward to it, Harry thought. Lord Elmont, Anita said as she walked down to him. It's been a long time, my lady. You have fared well all this time. Rick Elmont, Vice Commander of the Knights of the Duchy of Lakeside. She had heard of your return from the north, but could not have expected you to visit her in person. It's only a matter of sending one invitation. You could have just sent a servant. He came in person, as he wanted to see you, my lady. Thank you so much for those words, Anita said. Did you complete your business in the north safely? Yes, there was only a little trouble this time, Rick said. However, he never got used to the cold. The cold north is very famous in the Empire. Even in the middle of summer, winter weather persists there. Because of the barren land, no crops grow there. However, the precious minerals buried in the ground caused havoc. It was originally the responsibility of the imperial family to solve this problem, but at that time they were busy sending the ducal knights to the north. A short excerpt from Anita and Axel's memoirs. Why does he obey the Emperor's orders? Anita asked Axel. You could have just refused to do it. He has what he wants to find in the north. He'll be able to do whatever he wants and escape the Emperor's suspicions, so there's no reason to refuse. They went back from the memories to the reality of her and Rick talking. He's still looking for something, she thought. She's glad you made it back to the capital before winter set in. Now you are keeping your way back to the duchy. It's not exactly necessary to report to the Emperor on matters in the north, Rick said. A guest from the Lakide family had arrived. Then you should have reported to her at once, Mother told the maid. Knock on the doors now, came a voice from the door. Mrs. Anita, Madame is looking for you. They are, said Mother. Let them come in. The Matushka went in, and with a surprised voice asked, Oh dear, Anita. Why didn't she tell her in advance that she had company? She didn't want to disturb her at all. Anita looked angrily at her mother and thought she was pretending not to know. Rick greeted the Marquis of Renardi by kissing her hand and introduced himself. His name is Rick Elmont. He is the Vice Commander of the Lakide Knighthood. Mother was very surprised. The Vice Commander of the Knights even interjected. To think you personally came to deliver the tea party invitation, she said. Rick replied that it wasn't. Any knight of Lakade, yes, would want to do the same. He's talking about visiting my lady Anita. Really, I didn't know Anita had such a close relationship with the knights of the duchy, Mother said. It's not just for the knights, but for the entire city of Laketh, Rick replied. Since my lady saved the life of the head of the clan. You're talking about it 8 years ago, Mother said. She heard that it was the doctor's credit, not Anita's. And this is the very invitation, said Mother, noticing it on the table. Taking the envelope in her hands, Anita said, I wonder what the Archduke sent. Anita took the envelope from her mom and said, I'm sorry, she hasn't read it herself yet. It seems inappropriate for anyone to open it faster than Anita. When they opened the envelope, the scent of roses wafted out. Axian put rose petals in the invitation thoughtfully. On his part, Anita thought. The invitation card read, Dear Anita, he would like to invite her to a tea party in a week's time in the garden of the ducal residence. It would be a pleasure if she would accept the invitation, her friend Axian. Anita said, Please tell him she's coming, and smiled. Rick said, He understands you, my lady. While Anita and Rick chatted, then Mother sat thinking she owed it to herself to push Arabella through to this tea party. If the Archduke saw her, he would realize she was better than Anita. Anita, she's so worried about Arabella, Mother said. You know that too, don't you, Lord? Anita was able to socialize early, and Arabella wasn't. She's really trying to pass Arabella off as Axian, Anita thought. It's a dream that won't come true. Realize that already. Finally, she doesn't mind if Arabella goes with her. However, will she like the idea? Mother asked. Mother's tears went away at once, she said. Definitely she would like it. Then it is all right, Lord. If it is my lady's wish, anything is possible, Rick said. Looks like it's time for him to go to the fortress. Anita wished him well on his way. When Rick left, Mother said she needed to talk to Anita. She fired the maid today on a whim. Among them was her maid of honor. What is she trying to accomplish by this? Mother cried out. Anita said they were spreading idle rumors. You can't trust and assign work to those who use their language carelessly. Nevertheless, how could she suddenly dismiss them? Mother cried out again. It's all for your sake, Mother. You hate them too, Anita said. They've been telling anyone the business of the mansion. Well then, okay, let's let that moment go. There's something more important. But what is it? Something important? Anita interjected. Arabella will have an audience with Her Majesty on the 10th. I think you should go with her. Arabella hasn't had enough experience with tea parties yet. It would be difficult for her alone. It would be more comfortable if you were at her side. If the wedding rumor comes out, she wants to set up Anita instead of Arabella, the girl thought. If the Empress makes her move, they will be easily separated by Axian. In that case, Arabella will have no reason to marry the Windy Prince. Shouldn't we ask Her Highness's permission first? Anita asked. The Empress has already given permission, speaking of your engagement. You do realize that this is rightfully Bella's place. Don't be presumptuous and do the right thing, Anita, Mother said. The Duchy of Laked. She heard you visited Anita's mansion, Mother Axiona asked. He's still the same, Axian answered correctly. Still the same. So this family hasn't changed a bit. After coming of age, she wanted to go on a long journey, were Anita's words a few years ago. It seems she wanted to sever ties with the family. Given her treatment of Anita at the Marquis residence, she is understandable, Mother Axiona said. Why doesn't she stay with them in Lakewood until you're of age? Thank you for the offer, but she can't give up her family, Anita replied. It didn't matter how many times. She offered, the girl refused, so she couldn't impose anymore, Mother Axiona said. She had to save her. Are you worried about her? Axian asked. No, rather I regret that she could not bring them to Laked at that moment. Tonight in Anita's room. She's had absolutely no appetite lately. Yes. Yesterday it seemed to her that the family was coming together at Arabella's table. But she didn't think so now. There was a knock at the door and Philip the butler came in. Renarti, he said. My lady, the head of the family is waiting for you in his study. The butler didn't leave, Anita interjected. What else? The master has called you to return to your domestic duties immediately. That's too much. The master doesn't seem to realize you're still young, the butler said. I suppose you're right, Anita confirmed. But she's going to go anyway, Philip. Because she just needs to move on. What do you think your father would do if he heard you say that? You, Philip, will be fired without severance pay, so watch what you say. She went to her father, and the butlers looked at her and thought he was just hoping he wouldn't be thrown out. It's for his sake and hers, Lady Anita. Walking into my father's office, he said right from the doorstep, these are the documents she has to deal with. If she works all the time without leaving the room, she'll be done in a day, right? He asked Anita. Since Arabella's return, you have deprived her of the opportunity to go out in public, preventing her from social activities in every way possible. And now she's talking like he's the problem. She began helping Renarti run their business when she was only 12 years old. Then she realized that they didn't need Anita Renarti. So she decided to leave the estate as soon as she was an adult. But no matter how much she wanted to isolate herself, she felt she had to fulfill her responsibilities. So she worked hard and did absolutely all of the Marquise's errands. Why isn't she answering? Anyone can do the job quickly, my father asked. But since it's complicated, you get everything, don't you, her? Anita asked. Because if these documents were that easy to deal with, you'd do it all yourself, right? She has to study to succeed at something, shouted the father. Aren't you going to run the household in Lakeda? Her mother, as the mistress of the Renarti house, doesn't even touch the household chores. I wonder why things should be different for her, Anita asked. Stop whining. You're 17 years old now, so you should be taking care of your family too. Unlike her father, Axian doesn't need her to take care of him. Her father interjected. What? He's responsible and knows the duties of the head of the family, Anita said. Father, do the work yourself as the true head of the family. The girl turned and walked away. Her father was shouting after her. Stop acting like that, she crossed the line. But she went on ahead and didn't even turn around or say anything back to him. Go back to your room and think about it. But she was going there anyway, only she wasn't going to think about it. What impertinence, thought he. I'll have to put up with that impertinence. A week later. She thought she would just escort Arabella to the Archduke's mansion. The girls ride in a carriage to the mansion. Before leaving, Mother approached Anita and told her that if Arabella fainted to take care of her. But they hope it doesn't happen. The silence of the girls in the carriage was interrupted by Arabella. She started mumbling, trying to say something, but Anita said, If she wants to say something, let her say it. I wonder if she'll have time to say anything before they reach the mansion, Anita thought. Arabella began to speak. Anita, she spoke to Mama. She wants you and the Archduke to be happy. After all, you are my sister. How can she get in the way? You say I'm your sister? Said Anna. Of course she's glad you're together, even if they're going to fight. Please, let's always make up. That's impossible, Anita said. Had she ever had a relationship like that? She had a family who took her from the slums and raised her. Her father said they were stranded and sent them money. They'll be okay, won't they? Asked Arabella. It would be fine if it were true, but she was. Marquis, not such a nice man, Anita thought. Anyway, don't worry, she doesn't want to duke it out, Arabella said. Have you ever told your mother what you think? Anita asked. Well, or at least his maid. No, Arabella replied. She doesn't think they're happy about it. Well, you haven't even said anything to anyone. How do you think we'll know what's on your mind if you don't say it? Please tell Mother, Arabella. The carriage pulled up. They arrived. They passed into the garden of the Archduke Lacidade. Arabella walked to the garden and saw that it was very beautiful indeed. If he had known it would be such nice weather today, he would have invited you to Lake Alcente. Arabella replied that she was fine here as it was. The girl noticed the beautiful flowers in this garden. She asked if she could smell them, to her. Axian replied, Of course you can. The scent of Lavenna's flowers might be too pungent for Arabella, Anita thought. Arabella leaned over to smell the flower. It was beautiful, but they're the ones who are really tense, because she knows that when her sister has some new experiences, the girl can faint. When Arabella smelled the flower, she said it had a nice fragrance and smiled. At one point, Axian noticed that Arabella's face had gone pale. He asked, Anita, is your sister all right? Arabella. Unconscious again, Axian and Anita immediately rushed to the girl to help her. Sometime later, the room. Arabella is lying in bed with Axian sitting on a chair beside her. She finally came to her senses. How are you feeling? So shy, she wasn't ready to have someone sitting beside her. Arabella said, Archduke, where is she? What happened? Are you all right? Axian asked. Have you been unconscious for a long time? Oh, she passed out again, Arabella said. Yes, are you in any pain? Axian asked. What happened after all? Where are they? Asked Arabella. She's talking to the doctor about your condition, Axian replied. Don't worry, she'll be here soon. A silence formed in the room. Arabella sat silent, and the Archduke was silent too. The Archduke seems to think highly of you, Arabella. All wrong, thought the girl. The Archduke looks warmly at only one person, Anita. He becomes completely different around her. Oni is a good girl. Even though she looks cold, she's not like that at heart, Arabella thought. This is bad. She didn't want it to be like this. Arabella turned to the Archduke, saying that she liked Anita. She wants Anita to be happy, so she hopes you can give her the happiness she deserves. Maybe she's asking for too much. And then Arabella heard the long-awaited answer. He wants it too. More than anything, he wants them to be happy, Axian said. And then Arabella thought, yes, this is the right man for Anita. She'll be truly happy with him. First Lady Renardi, it seems that your sister has a gift that makes her react so keenly to divine power. Divine power? Interjected Anita. Yes, the doctor answered her. It usually shows up at an early age, but maybe the circumstances were right. So she didn't know about it. Are you sure? Interjected Anita. All the doctors in the Archduke's family are well versed in divine and magical powers. As you know, the imperial family and family received their powers from the divine beast. A doctor who doesn't know about it can't work in the duchy. If it hadn't been for the doctor, she would never have known about Arabella's condition, Anita thought. Quite naturally, no one even suspected it. Of course, this Red of the Marquis was also left in the dark. The Marquis has probably been contacted by then, so we must be looking forward to Arabella's return. Will Arabella be able to use the carriage? Asked Anita. Yes. If she is already awake and a little rested, there will be no problem, replied the doctor. Then could you arrange for a carriage to be prepared for them? She's sure her sister will wake up soon, Anita said. Very well, he will, the doctor replied. As they approached the room where Arabella was, they heard a conversation. That's right, she thought. She's already awake. Axian just discouraged that he hoped it would work out for you. Anita noticed that Axian and Arabella looked good together. In fact, even if Arabella didn't show up, breaking the engagement with Axian in the future would be a done deal. Years ago, she decided that when she became an adult, she would cut all ties with the Renardi family. Naturally, her engagement to Axian would also come to an end. Nevertheless, the Marquis couple was angry at her for not wanting to give up the only thing she cared about. She didn't want Axian taken away from her. She thought even if they broke up, they'd be friends. She thought their relationship wouldn't change, but she was really going to lose him, and she'll have nothing left at all. When the girls returned to their home in the palace, their father asked how Arabella was. Her mother replied that she was fine, and she escorted her to her bedroom. Dad started scolding Anita again. "What the hell did she do?" "What was she supposed to do?" said the girl. "She's not even a doctor. How could she have saved Arabella from fainting?" "Anita, she's just a child. Unlike you, she was a little girl growing up in a poor family," Dad said. "He knew you were selfish, but this is over the top. No matter what, she has to do what her father tells her," Anita said. "What is she talking about?" asked the father. "You lost a small consolation amount of money, so you decided to bring up Arabella. Besides, she heard you were beating up people from the slums." "What?" the father shouted. "Arabella thinks father rewarded them?" And she wanted to be clear about who was responsible here. Maybe it was her mother's fault for sending Arabella to the Archduke, knowing she might faint. Therefore, they bear the blame. Father swung and hit Anita, but Mother held him back from hitting her again. Mother said that he had forgotten that they had to go to the imperial palace. Her father continued to scream, but Anita realized that it wouldn't stop him. That was why she didn't want to talk to him. She thought about the documents she'd found a few days ago when he'd made her work. In any case, it will have nothing to do with her in the future. His mother yelled at him that he could have hit her when Anita would have returned from the imperial palace. But his father kept resenting her, and yelling that she hadn't even apologized for her words to him. "Take care," Anita told her father. When Anita got to her room, her maid came running to her, poked her cheek with her finger, and told her that it was swollen with a bruise, and would probably stay for a long time. She had heard that such injuries went away quickly if you put meat on them. She offered to bring it, but Anita said that if the chef suddenly caught her, what would happen? She'd better not worry about it. She'll get the medicine tomorrow morning, the maid added. "I beg your pardon, my lady. Is Lady Arabella well?" the maid asked. "She's worried because Arabella passed out during the walk, that is." "Did you do something to the flowers?" remembered Anita's conversation with Axian. He needed to figure something out, so he blessed the flowers with divine power. He didn't know my lady would faint over it. "Are you disappointed in me, Anita?" asked Axian. "Yeah. What would he do if she said she was disappointed?" He was probably smiling as usual. "Axian, are you afraid of something?" pondered Anita. There were voices in the mansion. My lady, where are you?" The maids looked for my lady and thought she was not here. "Let's look elsewhere," they said. Anita remembers her past again. She hides in the rose bushes. What's wrong with her? Everyone is so kind and caring to her. They are quite different from the Renardi family, thought little Anita. She feels like she shouldn't take it all to heart. Her father only sent her here to get close to the Archduke family. She shouldn't do that. She feels like she's suffocating, short of breath. And then she hears a voice. "Here, where are you?" Raising her head, she saw Axian in front of her. "He was looking for her," the boy said. "What?" Anita asked. "Do you hate me?" Axian asked. After the day she had rescued Lady Laquaide from the lake, she had never spoken to Axian again. Alone, she was used to being hated, so she didn't pay much attention to it. Because there have always been more people in the world who hate you than those who would truly love her. "He didn't hate her," Axian said. "Anita, he just can't hate her." He held out his hand to her and said, "Come on, let's go." It was her first time being able to feel someone else's warmth on her skin, so she didn't realize that at that moment Axian's eyes were filled with despair. A few days later, Axian became ill. The maid took care of him all day and night and told him to rest, mistress. The Archduchess's maid, laked Ella. "It's all right, Ella. You can go and rest," mistress said. It happens every summer, so she's used to it, but she's still very worried about Axian every time. "Is Anita asleep?" mistress asked. "Yes," replied Ella. "She has been taken to the bedroom. By the way, mistress, when she was helping the lady change her clothes, she noticed that she had bruises on her body, as if from pinching. There were old bruises as well as fresh ones." "Bruises?" mistress interjected. "Yes, what should she do?" Ella asked. "She should treat them with holy water to make the bruises disappear." "Yes, go to the temple tomorrow morning and fetch the holy water," said mistress. "Good. Now she knows why she was refusing help with the dressing down. She was worried that Lady Anita was very withdrawn, but she couldn't imagine anyone hurting her. A week ago, she had heard that the Renarti family had received a sacred relic from the imperial family to establish paternity, but she couldn't believe it. She didn't think it was Ariadne's light, but she doesn't know exactly what the relic is or how authentic it is. And her wounds, They were most likely made by the girl who showed up claiming to be Arabella. If the bruises on Anita's body really have something to do with this girl, then where are these Renartis looking if their daughter is being abused like this? The butler came in and said, "Madam, would you mind stepping out for a moment?" When Mistress came out, she saw Anita standing there. "What is it?" she asked. "Has the doctor come?" Anita apologizes if her timing is off. She seemed very worried about Axian. "It's nothing, don't worry. He gets sick periodically," Mother said. "He gets sick periodically. But it's a big secret, because the Archduke has many enemies who want to find his weaknesses," said Mother. "She won't tell anyone," Anita replied. "But Anita, as you asked yourself?" "Mistress." "Nothing of the sort, so there is no need to mention it," said the girl. Mistress thought for a moment. What a relief that the Marquis of Renarka let her come here. She must have been hiding her bruises from her parents the whole time. "Anita, there's no shame in sharing what's bothering you. If you want, you can come here more often and stay longer." "Thank you very much, but she doesn't think she can do it," Anita replied. "Parents say that nobles should take care of their estates from the age of 10. She is already 10. So she has a lot to learn so she can help her father in the future. She has to deal with these things." Mistress wondered, "Who told you such a thing, Father?" "I did," Anita replied. Mistress suggested that Anita spend some time with Axian. She needed to get away for a while. Anita agreed gladly. "You are a very kind and sweet girl," said Mistress, and then she felt that feeling. She couldn't understand what it was. She'd never had it before. Walking into the room, she saw Axian lying on the bed. "Axian," Anita said, taking his hand. She was getting hot and cold. She recalls Mistress's words. What strange words she had spoken to her. She has received so much love since being here. She would like to take all of Axian's suffering, all on herself, and rid him of his nightmares. Because she's used to living a nightmare. And it's no big deal to her, and she can take it. She took Axian's hand and placed it to her forehead. At that moment, the boy woke up, and he felt so much better, except they had fallen asleep for some reason. He laid her on his bed and covered her with his blanket. She moaned. Axian asked her if she was having a nightmare. "But it doesn't have to be that way," he said. He put his hand to her head and told her that she should have only good dreams, and they immediately stopped moaning. He wondered if she remembered the first day they met. He often thinks about that day, even now. He thinks he's very lucky to have met her, and because it came out of Lake Eloquente. In this empire, the founder of Kato Roy obtained the power of a divine beast. There are two types of dukes. The title of Archduke is given to the emperor's brother as a winnings. In this case, his descendants will receive the title of Count, and another Laecidade, whose lineage began with the second son of the first emperor, and continues to this day. However, the reality is very different from what is written in the books. A divine beast has placed a terrible curse on the imperial family. The cursed Lake Alcente was a blighted place from which no one ever left alive. Emperor ordered the knights to guard the lake to preserve its sacred image and prevent people from dying. But no one who fell into the lake made it out alive. But there they met her, Anita, who knew nothing of the curse of the lake, known only to the imperial family. She didn't seem to realize how wonderful she was. "Hurry up and take care of the mistress," the knights said. "It's impossible to leave Lake Alcente without divine powers. The fact that they got out of there without having such a gift was a miracle." He thought the divine beast of the Savior was gone. "Your lordship, how are you?" Everyone was shouting all around. In spite of that, they saved the Archduchess. He had always treated Anita as a benefactor of the duchy, but sometimes he couldn't take his eyes off Anita. In an era where divine powers, except for healing powers, had disappeared, the Emperor, the only one born with divine power, he expected the slightest sign of weakness. The church was also doing its best for him, but everyone around him was kind to him. But he always felt that he was just an extra piece in the mechanism. She and Anita were alike in that. She always looked so lonely. When he looks at Anita, he gets hurt. If she had divine power, they would definitely be good at lifting each other. That night when the maids were looking for Lady Antuta and she hid in the rose bushes, that day he thought he'd lost her, but he found her. And even if she doesn't have divine powers, it doesn't mean anything. At first he thought it would be nice if she had divine powers like he did, but now he was glad she didn't. Because she won't have to go through what Axian went through. While they were sleeping, he put his hand on her head, stroked her, and told her he hated her. He could never do something to make her sad, so there are some things he can't ask. Axian lay down next to Anita and fell asleep too. Memories are over. Back to reality. Your cheek is very swollen, the maid said, and applied some kind of ointment to her cheek. Also, the Marquis said you can't leave the room for a while. You must be surprised that the cure came so immediately, milady. I guess they were afraid someone would see. Early heals quickly. What a relief, isn't it? The maid said. I suppose so, replied Anita. That's right. They sent holy water from the temple today, the maid said. Not so. She opened a cabinet and took out a coin. Turning, she said to the maid, Take it. The girl began to consider this coin, and they thought, Isn't that enough? And decided to give her some more coins with the words, Good job, Harry, the girl said. Thank you. With joy, she ran to the door saying, Then she will go make breakfast and bring it soon. She was alone in the room. She went to the window and the same feeling came over her again. It's as if she's having a dream she can't remember. Maybe it's nostalgia. Axian was also standing on the other side of town near the window, and he too had that feeling of nostalgia and reminiscence. Axian's memories of when they were little, sitting in the garden, and she said she had a secret. There's a thing she can't tell him about, so you don't have to tell her everything. So they made a bet. They swore on their little fingers that they would keep one thing a secret and tell the rest. One of the secrets that only he knows. Anita said she didn't have divine power, but she could talk to spirit. So Anita's sister is the same, he thought. A butler and a knight knocked on the door with the words, Mr. Axian. Axian wants to know about everything, he said. Butler replied that yes, he understands when let him begin with a report on Arabella Renarti. According to Dr. Arabella Renarti, there is a high probability that she has a peculiarity of responding to divine power. Divine power? Axian interjected. The butler replied, There is none. If she doesn't have divine power, it won't do any good, even if there are rumors of marriage with the imperial family. No, absolutely none. Well, interfere. Axian thought and said, Who's conducting the Holy Day ceremony this time? The butler replied, Earl Rome's second son was chosen first. However, it seems that Marquis Renarti's family won't just stand by. The Marquis has made every effort to make Arabella Renate shine on this holy day. The most outstanding presenter will take the spot. Holy Day. The empire is based on the divine beast. A sacred ceremony is held every 3 years. Heirs from every aristocratic family always participate. The imperial family has one hidden agenda in conducting ceremonies, to find out which one of them has divine power. One should be wary if this power is possessed by someone from the aristocracy, rather than the imperial family. Moreover, this ceremony is very meaningful to Renarka, Butler said. There's still the First Lady. The ceremony can't start with the second, Rick said. There have been multiple refusals. Now that the First Lady is back, she's bound to participate, the butler said. What are the chances of Arabella passing out during the ceremony? Axian asked. Unless someone gets hurt, then the priests will use healing powers, the butler replied. Though that's unlikely. But if that were to happen, her specialty would manifest. In that case, with 3 divine power recognition abilities, the imperial family will try to make a marriage of convenience with Arabella, Rick said. If that really happens, the Renarti consort will tremble in terror, replied the butler. Arabella's room. The girl sits on the bed and says that she sincerely wants them to be happy. Back to Axian. He too thinks Anita isn't the type to give up easily when he sees that she doesn't call her sister. You could really say they're not close. Judging by her words, she really cares for Anita, Axian thought. Sir, what are you thinking about? The butler asked. Bant, yes, master. He too will take part in the Holy Day ceremony, Axian said. Anita's room. The girl is lying on the bed with a pile of papers. She's working. Even imprisoned, she'll be forced to keep working, she thought. These documents had not yet been verified, or no one knew they had been mixed. Tax evasion document. Anita goes through the papers, sorting through the documents. Exactly 1 year ago, she suspected something strange, an annual donation to the temple. However, depending on the year, the amount of the donation didn't match and became larger. Sensing something suspicious, she personally went to the Marquis. All she heard from him was ornery again. Don't be so presumptuous! And he hit her too. It was a hoax, the girl thought. The Marquis was definitely doing double bookkeeping. And after this incident, Marquis kept a careful eye on the ledger and did not show it to Anita. Of course, Now the book is back in her hands, doing double bookkeeping and making a huge donation to the temple, all because of the Ariadne's light, a sacred object that can be used to find anyone. It was thanks to this item that Arabella was found. We're 4 months away from another tax audit. 4 months away. The audit will unequivocally expose tax evasion. Even in the imperial family, it won't be left that easily. However, she has no intention of correcting this document. In any event, the territory's tax rate is unaffected in recovering the tax evasion. Only private property is to be confiscated as compensation. Great. If that happens, the locals won't suffer for 10 years. No doubt the Marquise's life will be poor and the servants dispersed. She knows it, but she's still thinking about it. What should she do? A few days later, trying on a dress for Arabella. "Bella, how beautiful you are! It's as if the dress was made especially for you," said Mother. I replied. Thanked other people for their help. But her father admonished her, saying she should remember what he told her earlier. Since she's meeting Her Majesty, special attention must be paid to her appearance, right? The father replied. Bella. As Mother and Bella came down the stairs, they saw Anita. "You're here so early. You're so beautiful," Bella said. But except that Anita replied languidly, "Uh-huh," and thought she saw them doing their best to show her off to the Empress. "Anita, you should apply more powder," Mother said. "Seems fine as it is, doesn't it?" "Her skin is originally white and beautiful," said Arabella. "One must show the best version of oneself on the occasion of meeting Her Majesty," replied Mother. Anita's maid rushed over with the words, "Mistress, then fetch to apply powder." But Anita said, "No, nothing is needed. She's all set. It doesn't make much difference. Come on, Arabella." "Halt!" yelled the mother. The girls stopped, turned around and looked at their mother and father. Anita noticed that they were trembling with fear. "Then why are you being so cautious, father?" she thought. "Anita, I have a conversation for you. Follow it," father said. "I don't know her what you have to say, but she has nothing to say to you." "Ah, is it because of her cheek?" said Oni. Father shouted, "Come!" "Father, why are you acting like this? Why are you yelling at Anita?" Arabella wanted to say as her mother interrupted her. "She doesn't need to worry about that. They'll sort it out for themselves." "Oh, Bella, already you are frightened. Hurry up and follow me," said Mother. "Again she has nothing to say to you, father," said Anita. There were 2 maids standing near Arabella, who started discussing Anita, saying that it's mistress again. It's a horrible atmosphere. She wants to scare Bella again. She must be upset because her dress is so much worse. Arabella couldn't stand it, walked over to the maids and said, "Father was the first to get angry. They didn't do anything wrong." "Well, the maids said you were so kind, Mistress Arabella. It would be nice if Mrs. They were half as good as you." It's strange, but they're so kind too, Arabella thought. When she says she's nice, everyone says the opposite. Kind parents and sweet maids. All the other Renarti people. If she was really bad, she wouldn't have run across the mansion to call the doctor when she fainted, Bella thought. And as the butler said, Anita saved the Archduke's mother from falling into the lake at the age of 9. She's helping other people. Then why does everyone think she's bad? Arabella, go to the carriage first. We need to talk to your sister, Anita. Arabella said she didn't want to. She walked to the carriage and took Anita's hand. And then there was outrage. Isn't she allowed to hear that? Didn't your feet hurt? Rest in the carriage, daughter, Mother said. Why is she acting like this all of a sudden? Anita thought. Did she really? Oh, what was she thinking just now? After all, she is the Marquis's daughter. That's not true. We just started making excuses, Mother interrupted Father. He said it was because he was worried she'd be tired before she even met Her Majesty's. She's still too weak. So leave it, Anita, and go first into the carriage, please, said Mother. But Bella said, no, they must not be late to meet Her Majesty, and it was better to go out now and together. Turning to the thread, it was said, let's go, and the girls walked toward the carriage, holding hands. They were still, of course, very suspicious of Bella's behavior. It was strange for her. Arabella, as you greet Her Majesty, Mother has decided to admonish Bella. The knight gives his hand to Anita to get her into the carriage, but she won't give him her hand. He thought it looked like she didn't even want to touch him. She doesn't think this knight was originally for an escort. Where had she seen him? Anita began to think back. It seems this knight brought Arabella to the manor. The knight asked, why don't you take his hand? If he had never been in an escort role, why was he introduced to accompany her? If you wanted to get out of the carriage yourself, You would have said so at once. Something seemed suspicious to Anita. He touched her with his hand on purpose, and she didn't like it. She stepped on his foot with her heel. If you can't walk properly, you should have taken my hand, she told him. What kind of knight are you? She asked. The boy replied, What kind of question is that? Because he doesn't even know the basic rules of etiquette. How can such a knight serve Renartia? Couldn't the same be said for you, mistress? Said the young man. Why should I? Replied Anita. Harassing Mistress Arabella, the lad said. And then somehow the mother stood up for Anita. She told him what he was saying to Anita. Anita looked at her mother with a very serious look. She started saying it wasn't her. Really wasn't her. Her reaction is similar. Her hunch was right. She doesn't know why, but her mother is intent on spreading bad rumors about her, and is now trying to cover it up. Anita said yes, mother, but thought she needed to find out the reason for these rumors. In a word, thank her for her help. They some laughed that it finally made sense, but then quickly calmed down and said, But it's still weird because it's the first time she's seeing this knight. And it seems these rumors were spoken of by the rumors that were recently dismissed, she said. That's right. They won't cause any more trouble, Mother replied. She is glad they are no longer working, and Mother is glad too, she said. Otherwise they'd be in trouble too. Have you heard what they're saying in the mansion? No, it's not unusual for you to hate her. But you, boy, you're showing it. That makes a difference, Anita thought. Mother told the girl. She doesn't want to see this knight's face again. If Father hears this story, he will be expelled from the escort, right? Of course it will, replied Mother. Send him to the manor. Not yet, said Anita. Time to go to Her Majesty, Anita said and went. As the girls approached Her Majesty's room, they were introduced. Your Majesty, the Marquise Renarti, the Senior Lady Renarti, as well as the Junior Lady have arrived. Let us in, replied. As the girls made their way into the hall, they each greeted Her Majesty. The first was Anita, who bowed and saluted. The second was Arabella. She too greeted Her Majesty by bowing and said her name was Arabella Renarte. Anita, turning to Bella, saw that the girl was getting nervous. Her Majesty, said the raised heads, and the girls rose from their bows. Empress. The Empress always had an expressionless and cold face. Despite being in the midst of a tragedy where her entire family died, she never lost her cool. And despite mocking gossip that she doesn't smile for fear of wrinkles, Empress never lost her dignity. Seeing the Empress for the first time today, Anita thought, finally the Empress sees the faces of the ladies, she said. Marquise Renarti, would you mind leaving us watching for a little while? Said the Empress. Marquise replied that Your Highness Arabella was not yet skillful, but the Marquise said she had heard that the girl was 19 years old. Couldn't she speak if no one was around? The Empress asked. I beg your pardon, that is not what she intended to say, Your Majesty, said the Marquise. And she replied that next time then, think before you speak. The Empress has taken notice, however. Why are you still here? Arabella Renardi, the Empress said. She told everyone but the younger lady to come out. Marquise, Anita's mother, and Anita's mother remained in the guest room. They drank tea, but at some point Anita got up and got ready to leave. The Marquise asks where she's going. Her Majesty the Empress may want to see you at any moment. Wouldn't she be busy meeting Arabella? Anita asked. Marquise said there's no way to be precise about it, so be here. Anita said no. If Her Majesty was looking for her, someone would pass the rumor on to her too, and the girl headed for the exit. Mother jumped up and shouted that she must stay here too. You're making her think you want to betroth her to the Crown Prince, Anita said. Is that what you have planned? What did you say, Marquise? If it isn't, she doesn't understand why you're acting like this, Anita said. She says this because she knows the Empress isn't going to call her out. Because the Empress and the Lassite are related. They left the room and went away. The Marquise, her mother, shouting after her. If the maid called for her, she must come running at once. They went out into the garden to get some fresh air and admire the flowers. She didn't want to walk in the garden, but it turned out that here. I wonder what the Empress will say to Arabella, Anita thought. Arabella seemed to be waiting for this very beginning. She thought she was going to tell her about the marriage. But it was unexpected. Apparently the Marquise expected the Empress to call her instead of Arabella. While they were walking in the garden, they heard someone seemingly coming. The bushes rustled. A boy came out of the bushes straight toward her. Anita noticed that he couldn't see well because he had gone and was groping everything. She thought, why is the child here unaccompanied? The boy said and ran up to Anita. He said, thank you very much. To her, but she didn't understand what he was thanking her for. Everything seems fine. Maybe I should ask him to let her go because he's got his hands on her. He let her go and said, "I'm sorry, he didn't mean it." Anita noticed that he seemed to want to say something to her, and then he started running away. They remained standing there, unable to understand what kind of boy he was, what was going on. Axian Palace. The aide said the crown prince was absent, the butler said. "This isn't the first time His Highness has been late for a meeting, but this is too much," Rick said. In fact, the first daughter Renate is said to have come to greet the Empress. "So that's what happened," Axian said. "Ariadne's light is sacred, a relic that can confirm paternity. Ariadne's light is said to have been in someone else's hands for a long time. A couple of marquises asked to keep the relic for a while, and the Empress helped them. However, the Marquis postponed his meeting with the Empress for a month. I'm sure it was not without problems. If so, he thinks Mrs. Renarte came with her daughters," the butler said. "Believes that's what Axian said." "Either way, the crown prince is being rude," Rick said. "Did the Empress send for him because he was gone for a long time?" the butler said. "The crown prince might run into Lady Anita," Rick said.